came to get exactly what you want. We came here to say that you don't really want it with us. Yeah. Sports Show. Came here to say that you don't really want it with us. Yeah. The Sports Show. Came here to say that you don't really want it with us. Yeah. We love you know.
Yeah. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Yerrr Sports Show. I am your host, Big Baby, a.k.a. the soul of R&B. And we had a little bit of audio issues at the beginning of the episode. I'm not going to lie to you. But we still got through it. So here is the Yerrr Sports Show, episode 36, in its entirety. Please enjoy.
No, we're doing this live.
We'll jump right into it again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to the Yerrr Sports Show Quick Hit, sponsored by, well, again, we still have no one. We're working on that. Starting in the NFL, Antonio Brown, the big news. Antonio Brown signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or should we say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, scheduled to make his season debut in Week 9 due to still serving an 8-game suspension by the NFL due to violations of the personal conduct policy last year. Speaking of last year, if we remember, Antonio Brown, after being traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the, at the time, Oakland Raiders, never played for the Raiders for a variety of reasons, was released before their Week 1 game, immediately signed with the New England Patriots, where in his one and only game with the Patriots last year, 4 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Antonio Brown has had a great relationship with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady petitioned for him to be brought to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so now the Buccaneers with Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, probably the most destructive and offensively minded receiving core in the NFL, not to mention they still have Rob Gronkowski. So this may be Super Bowl or bust for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Speaking of the Raiders are under investigation by the NFL for 4 violations of the COVID-19 policy in place there. Earlier this week, their entire offensive line was placed on the COVID injury list. So we may be seeing the Raiders go into their Week 7 game without their starting offensive line.
Wow.
Last night was Game 3 of the World Series, and the Dodgers won 6-2 to take a 2-1 series lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. We talk about the Tampa Rays in the World Series, Tampa Bay Bucks trying to make a Super Bowl run. Big deal here for Tampa Bay, Florida. Walker Buehler, the starting pitcher last night, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, cementing his legacy as a very good young postseason pitcher. And this kid has a lot of career in front of him. Game 4 is tonight. Dodgers looking to take a 3-1 lead. Rays hoping to tie it up. But in a bit of a bright spot for the Tampa Bay Rays, rookie hitter Randy Arozarena last night took over the lead for most total bases in a playoff series, a record previously held by David Freese of the St. Louis Cardinals. He has 52 so far, and again, we have at least a minimum of 2 more. If the Dodgers win games 4 and 5 and win this World Series 4-1, there's still 2 more games, so Randy has a chance to extend that lead on that most bases in a playoffs. He also, with his hit last night, broke Derek Jeter's rookie record for most hits in a postseason season, I should say. He now has 23. Derek Jeter had 22. Derek Jeter in his rookie season only played 15 games in the postseason, though due to the new structure this year of the MLB playoffs, so far Randy has played in 17 games. He's also tied Barry Bonds, Carlos Beltran, and Nelson Cruz with the most home runs in a postseason with 8. He hit his 8th home run last night. So again, 2 more games minimum. If this only goes to 5 games, he could break that record and be the first rookie to hold that record. He could also break Pablo Sandoval's overall amount of hits in a postseason record. Pablo Sandoval holds that record for 26. And again, Randy is at 23. Moving to the NBA, big coaching hire for the New Orleans Pelicans, hiring Stan Van Gundy, head coach of the 2009 Magic, who went to the NBA Finals. Remember the Dwight Howard, Jameer Nelson, Orlando Magic went all the way to the NBA Finals. Stan Van Gundy's also coached the Miami Heat and also coached the Detroit Pistons. Most recently, the team president and coach of the Pistons, and now
was a really good team.
Now the head coach of the Pelicans, a young Pelicans team, and the owner of the Pelicans said that one of the reasons why he wanted to hire Stan Van Gundy was due to his known nature as a teacher. in the NBA and the amount of young players that New Orleans has. Just in case anyone doesn't remember, Stan Van Gundy has a 58% winning percentage.
Oh, wow. That's
in
impressive.
the NBA. 58% of his games he's won, and he's also won 48 total playoff games. He actually has won more playoff games than he's lost in the NBA. So really big deal there. Let's see if Zion Williamson can take it to another level with Stan Van Gundy. Another thing coming out of the NBA earlier this week, the NBA Board of Governors surprised everyone with an idea for a 72-game season for the upcoming season that would start on Christmas Day.
Wow, that's quick.
Would start on Christmas Day, would have a play-in tournament for the playoffs, have no All-Star game, no All-Star weekend, but instead would have a 2-week break in the middle of the season for players to just rest.
Okay.
That's corny because most of the teams didn't even make it to the bubble.
Right. I think the play-in tournament or the tournament that they've been speaking about so much the past few years should be for those teams that's at the bottom. Like just a regular tournament, just play for money.
Well, you know what's interesting is the NBA is the one league outside of the big three, not counting the NHL, but the NBA is the one league in the big three that does not have a bye system.
Right.
They do not have a bye system in the first round. The number one teams play in the first round of the playoffs. So maybe what the NBA could probably do is an expanded playoffs, especially when we think about in recent years with the Western Conference in the NFL, how deep that West goes, where sometimes the 9th and 10th team are good enough to be playoff teams.
That's true.
Maybe they can do an expanded playoffs. It keeps a lot more teams in the hunt for the playoffs as the season goes by, which
Makes
could
it more
eliminate
competitive.
some tanking, possibly. Yeah. We talk about tanking in the NBA all the time. Give some markets a little bit more enthusiasm and give maybe your first and second seed or the overall best record in each conference a bye in the first round.
Right. And
that way you kind of have a play-in tournament because you're adding an extra team or two, but you're not really adding games for a playoff tournament.
Yeah.
And then again, we always talk about, the 8-1, imagine if a play-in team gets hot and makes a run like a Portland did this year.
Or like the Suns could have did, possibly. They went 8-0 in the bubble.
Right. Or you look at a team that maybe in a 72-game season, a team that gets, hampered by injuries, and then all of a sudden they drop. Maybe they could have been the third team in the West or the third team in the East, and they drop to like 9th or 10th, but they still make it in because of the expanded playoffs. And all of their guys come back healthy now for the playoffs, and they make a run. We talk about a lot of teams sometimes who don't get the runs that they should have because of injuries and all that other stuff. This could change that. 2 other stories coming out of the NBA this week. The NBA draft is on November 18th. The NBA announced it would be a virtual draft, but an even bigger story surrounding the draft. The Minnesota Timberwolves, who hold the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, still do not have a definitive choice for who they're going to pick number 1. They have repeatedly said in statements, they do not yet see a clear-cut number 1 in this draft. And the draft's on November 18th.
That's less than a month away.
Yeah. Last story. Rumors are circulating on NBA Twitter that Amari Stoudemire will be joining the coaching staff of the New Jersey Nets. Remember the New Jersey Brooklyn Nets. I apologize. I'm such an old school Nets fan. You can tell. Joining the coaching staff of the Brooklyn Nets, if you remember, Steve Nash was hired as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets earlier this year. So maybe we have a Phoenix redo in Brooklyn.
So hopefully no one on the team punches a fire extinguisher holder and cuts their hands and can't play.
Right. In the very important playoff games, we would hope that nobody does that.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
I will say true. Silver lining to this, though, I do think if he stays with the Brooklyn Nets, obviously, Jared Allen could really grow from learning from somebody like Amari Stoudemire.
I agree.
Last story out of the NBA. Oh, no, that was the last story out of the NBA. I apologize. The NBA didn't really get too much, but 4 stories out of there. Big fight news, right? Khabib versus Gaethje for the undisputed light heavyweight championship tonight on Fight Island. There will also be a middleweight number 1 contendership bout on that same card. Other news out of the UFC and sad news out of the UFC, actually, Anderson Silva has announced that definitively, regardless of anything, October 31st, the Halloween event for UFC will be his final fight in the UFC. Anderson Silva, one of the longest reigning middleweight champions, was 34-10-1 in his career in the UFC with 23 knockouts. When Anderson Silva was on his game, you did not want to miss a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he's facing my guy, Uriah Hall. That should be a good fight. At one point in time, Uriah Hall was the number 10 fighter.
So who do you guys have tonight? You have Khabib or Gady?
I have Khabib.
Yeah, I listen.
Khabib.
Just have to ask.
When I cannot pronounce your last name, that's a problem.
Right.
Okay. I don't. The man. I just call him Khabib. When you have one name as a fighter, and when we talk about this fighting list that you got later on, when you have one name as a fighter, like you deserve to be like just a dangerous person.
Yes.
And last but not least, in a little bit of pro wrestling news, because we will get into SmackDown a little bit later. A little bit of pro wrestling news. The NWA still operating, even in the middle of a pandemic, though not under the NWA banner, operating under, and I don't want to butcher their names. Give me 1 second while I please pull up exactly the name that they are really.
That part is not important. Let get to the part about who won the TV title.
The United Wrestling Network. I apologize. The NWA doing business with the United Wrestling Network. And this past week, we saw an NWA television championship match where Zicky Dice put the television title up against the Pope, Elijah Burke. And Elijah Burke wins the championship and becomes the new NWA television champion. He is now the third holder of the title since its re-debut in 2019. It was formerly the NWA National Television Championship, which retired in 1985. We obviously know of the WCW Television Championship, which kind of was born out of the spirit of the NWA Television Championship. But the Pope becomes the 7th African-American television champion in NWA company history. Though I would beg, because I didn't do too much looking into this due to being stuck in traffic and things. I'd like to see if that number increases, because I don't remember off the top of my head if there were many African-American television champions in WCW.
Outside of Booker?
Yeah, outside of Booker T.
No.
I don't think so.
No, Booker, and that's about it. Actually, no, it was only Booker.
Yeah, so if we count the WCW Television Championship for posterity's sake, the 8th African American man to win the television championship. I do want to say the United Wrestling Network, doing some great things.
Well, he wasn't the only one. There was someone back in the 70s, Rufus Jones, who won it a few times. There was Paul Jones. You
talking about the NWA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ernie Ladd.
Yeah, we have a few.
Yeah.
But definitely, it was definitely.
But when we transitioned over, so obviously after 1985, when the NWA championship was retired, and we kind of got the WCW television championship, I think Booker T might have been the only one.
Yes.
So congratulations. And here's the thing.
Stevie Ray.
Oh. And Stevie.
I forget about Stevie Ray.
Don't say that out loud. He hit you with a slapjack, bro.
And then growing up, I thought Johnny B. Bad was black. And no, I swear on everything. And I think I could have sworn there was a storyline when he said as an African American male.
Yo,
I could have sworn that. So when I saw Johnny B. Bad, I laughed a little bit because I'm like, I thought he was black.
I mean, he was definitely portrayed.
Oh, definitely. As Little Richard.
Right. I will never get over the fact
he
that
did. It was the hair.
Can I just say though about Little Richard? I hate to have to say this. I went so many years not actually understanding that Little Richard was a real person. I knew that he was a musical person and I knew that he was a musician, but tell me I'm wrong. But he was always presented as like this kind of being that was like, are you sure you're real? Like, he was real, but then it was just like, wait.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
He died this year.
He did.
Oh, man.
Listen, 2020 has been the worst. We know this. I posted on my Instagram story yesterday. I said I wouldn't be surprised if the Ivan Ooze egg comes out later on this month.
Game time since we don't have no Power Rangers here. So.
Right, and we're only in October. We still have two and a half months, people.
Yeah.
Let's realize this year ain't over yet.
No.
And this becomes the most stressful time of the year because we got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Or as I like to call Thanksgiving nowadays, pre-Christmas.
Right.
Because people forget that Thanksgiving. Remember when we were growing up, Thanksgiving was its own holiday.
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
Now people just care about Black Friday.
Right.
Right.
Cyber Monday.
Christmas trees are up in November now.
Already?
Yeah.
When I was traveling to Atlanta, JetBlue has Christmas tree, the big ass Christmas tree in the middle
So
of
weird.
the terminal, which I'm like, okay. And there's a sign that says, "Oh, we just want to get you started early thinking about Christmas."
All right. Thank you so much, Peter, for them quick hits.
Thank you
All
very much.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's run through these SmackDown results real quick. Seth Rollins defeated Murphy in a hell of a match. I can see them fight again. The Mysterio storyline seems like it's not over, but that's another thing for another episode.
Yeah, y'all, but it's not over. But Sasha and Bailey been doing this, aren't they? Shit for like 2 years.
You know what my thing is?
Right.
I wouldn't be mad about the Mysterio storyline still going on if it didn't involve a 19-year-old girl in a pseudo relationship with a 32-year-old man. I tell me something, Dre. If we was in the streets, Mysterio would be putting hands on Buddy Murphy. Like if you had a 32-year-old man all of a sudden creating some kind of entanglement situation with your 19-year-old daughter, there would be hands thrown. And I think that's what I think turns me off to this story. If it was just still Dominic and Ray and Seth, I could get it.
Right.
And I could stomach it, even if I feel like it's going a little beyond its expiration date. But the fact that Aaliyah got involved, the fact that it's a 19-year-old girl who's now all of a sudden in kind of a situation with this 32-year-old grown man.
Well, Trish Stratus and Vince.
But Trish was a grown-ass woman.
But still, she was still young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still.
I don't even think she was 21. 20,
Was
she was
she?
like 22, maybe 21.
Barely, and Vince was like 50-something, then, right? Oh my god!
I mean, I don't think anybody liked that either.
I think that I get what you're saying. My mom said the same thing about she was like, but he's like in his 30s and she's like really young.
Right.
Like,
and she still looks like a child on TV. Like, you look at her face, she looks, and I get that she's 19, she's above the legal age. I get it. But when you look at how she's presented on television.
Buddy Murphy, if you didn't know him,
right?
If you didn't know his age,
you
would say he was a guy in his
early
mid-20s, the latest.
Yeah.
But I get it.
It just turns me off a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a hell of a match, by the way.
It was. The Miz defeated Otis in court. If you didn't get a chance to watch that segment, please do, because we can sit here and dissect that whole thing for the whole show, because that's how I think that was good shit.
That was good. That was good.
That was some good shit.
That was good.
My favorite part of that whole thing, and a lot of my friends in one of my group chats were like, please turn it off. Please, my eyes are bleeding. Honestly, just Asuka should be in everything.
Yes.
Asuka needs to be in everything. She is the most comedic person on that roster without even trying.
Right.
And then Teddy Long popping up.
I love Teddy Long.
It was great. Yeah, it was, to me, the supporting cast for that was great. To have JBL as the judge, to have Ron Simmons as the bailiff. And by the way, the fact that Ron Simmons got to say more than just damn.
Yes.
Like, we got the damn in, but to say more than just damn was great.
It hasn't been like that in a long time.
Right.
Yeah. And I have that APA shirt. I wore it to WrestleMania.
I missed the
in
APA.
New Orleans. Bailey cut an in-ring promo. Sasha interrupted, got her to sign the contract. So it is
I said that was going to happen.
Yes, you did. Tay's real good at predicting and saying stuff. So a lot, and this is like on sports and off sports stuff. So if you
Tastradamus,
hit up.
You know what was funny about this? If you watch the broadcast again, and for those of you who may watch it back on a replay, Bailey could have bitten her hand.
Yes. And
not signed the contract. And so it's like, for me, something as small as that I saw in like the show, and I was just like, you could have gotten out of it. I think we all knew it was going to happen, like Tay said. I mean, because this match has to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm interested.
Y'all didn't know that. Y'all thought that was going to, you're like, she's not going to sign.
No. Listen,
nonsense.
I expected the match to happen because the WWE is not going to promote a match for a pay-per-view that big and not deliver on the match unless something completely unexpected happens. right? Like, like we saw in WrestleMania, people couldn't do matches because of COVID, right? But the WWE is not going to promote a match to happen. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So to me, we knew it was going to happen. I figured there'd be some
They could have
chicanery.
dragged it on. The thing is, it could have been dragged on to Sunday, the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
correct.
That's the thing.
But we knew it was going to be signed. The match
Right.
was going to happen. I'm interested to see what happens in Hell in a Cell, because I'm interested to see if this storyline continues with Bayley as champion, or if the storyline continues with Sasha as champion.
I think it's gonna have to continue with Sasha's champion.
Yes.
They keep highlighting the fact that anytime I hear them highlighting someone's championship days, I know it's numbered.
Right.
Yeah. They've been saying
356 or
Yeah.
whatever it was. But
Bailey has a year reign and a combined close to 1,000 days as a champion.
Cool.
That's amazing. It's only
Yeah.
one other woman who has more days, and I believe
That's Moolah?
it's either Moolah. Yeah, I think it's Moolah.
And I don't think anybody's ever beaten that record.
No,
She had
no.
a 30-year reign.
Right.
Hell
Yeah.
no.
No one's ever beating that
Never
record.
want to see that. Like somebody hold the belt for 1,000 years. But there's a difference. Now, there's a difference though with that. And I'm gonna move on quickly after I make this point. Remember, they didn't wrestle as much as these, as much as the current generation wrestlers.
No, not at all.
Right.
So a 10-year reign didn't sound crazy. Just like if we look at New Japan and Okada had almost 720 days as champion.
Right.
That's because they don't wrestle as much.
Right, of course.
So I can see it, but not in this era of wrestling.
No, and it's been like that since I would say the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you even look at the smaller reigns, like the reign that like Honky Tonk Man had with the Intercontinental Championship. I personally loved that whole
years,
like
right?
Santino storyline where it was like the Honkamita, right? I loved it. But there are a lot of reigns that are just not, like, in terms of cumulative days, that are not going to get broken. But you do see some things happening over the course of title reigns where like we see the New Days is slowly approaching that Dudley Boys record for most championships held ever.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's what? Hell in a Cell, right?
Yes, it is.
Wow, ready.
Did you hear the match that was announced?
I didn't.
Bray Wyatt versus T-Bar.
What?
Why?
Yep. The Fiend versus T-Bar.
Pre-show probably. Right?
Definitely.
I doubt they're putting the Fiend on the pre-show.
If they put the Fiend on the pre-show, I just might as well be like, all right. Well,
But I
time
think
to
the
cut this
bigger
off.
question that comes out of this is, what are we doing with Retribution after this? Because I don't see the Fiend losing to Retribution, and then T-Bar
that's a good
just
point.
tapped out to Lashley on Raw.
Yeah.
That's a question we're going to answer. We're definitely going to answer soon. Bianca Belair defeated Zelina Vega. This was a very good showing of Bianca Belair.
Of both women, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely both women. I love Zelina. I've loved Zelina since she was Rosita
Rosita Thea Trinidad,
Yes.
Rosita, yep.
in TNA.
Yep. I love, you know what I love about Zelina? I love her vocal selling in the ring.
Mhm.
She always vocally makes you believe that she is in danger.
She's a New York girl. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
and she is
she
completely.
talk like it too.
Oh yeah,
she talks like.
I think she is one of the best people on the stick in WWE, male or female. She can cut a great promo at any time. I was a little upset at first when I saw the matchup because like, okay, so we just gonna run back Zelina and Bianca again, like, but
nobody else made sense for last night.
right.
Right.
But Bianca had a great showing, and I like the Mr. Perfect-esque kind of build they're giving to Bianca.
Yep, I agree. Lawrence defeated Shorty G, who is now Chad Gable again.
Thank God.
Sami Zayn confronted Daniel Bryan after Daniel Bryan was talking about him on the KO show.
Let us kind of, I would say, bask in the final days of Daniel Bryan's
Yes.
WWE
Yes.
run.
Yes. And he
So
said
please pay attention.
yeah.
I didn't know he said that, but I just
he
felt
spoke
that.
about it on Talking Smack.
This is
Well,
his
I don't watch anything.
Yeah,
like that.
he
he
spoke
said-
about it on Talking Smack. He said this will be his last full-time run as a full-time superstar. So he did kind of leave the door open to maybe making some appearances, but he did say this was going to be his last full-time run, and he was his
He's
biggest
probably gonna take
interest.
the bet.
Yeah, his biggest interest was fighting as many top good names as possible in this final run.
Yes,
He's probably going to take the Intercontinental belt at some point.
I would like to. The problem is, and I forget who's the champion on SmackDown.
Sami Zayn.
No. Roman.
Yeah, no.
I don't see him getting anywhere near Roman, unfortunately. I would love to see Bryan just sentimentally get one more run with a top belt.
No, thank you. Intercontinental. We'll
but
this ain't 2014.
No, but it will be just the Intercontinental. But sentimentally, I'd love to see him get one last run with the top strap.
And not to forget the Fatal 4-Way tag match. The 8-man tag match. Daniel Bryan and KO and the Street Profits versus Ziggler, Rude, Shinsuke, and Cesaro. The faces won that match, and that was SmackDown.
Basically, what's a better way of saying that 8-man tag? It's basically a match with all the tag teams on SmackDown.
Basically.
That's it. And the 3 tag teams on SmackDown and the one thrown together tag team of KO.
I have a feeling that KO is going to be one of the next people to challenge Roman on SmackDown.
I can see it, but with his running with the Fiend, we kind of got to see what the results of that will be.
Because he hasn't changed yet. He hasn't changed. He's still KO.
Yeah, but
he might.
Who's next
for Roman?
Yeah,
that's the problem.
They might. It might be
E.
I think
it's too soon for
I don't
E.
think they're ready for that yet. KO is like right there, and he's a former Universal Champion.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to see, though I don't think we'll get it. And if we did get it, I don't think we'll get the match that I think we should get. He went undrafted, and I know a lot of people didn't really know. It was a kind of like thrown under story that he elected to have a minor surgery. Andrade, I think Andrade, especially the Andrade that we saw in his NXT title run and things like that, Andrade and Roman would be a really good match.
I would rather see a few other people first. I want to see Andrade with the Intercontinental title as first.
I want him with a lengthening reign with the Intercontinental title too, like kind of like a Rick Rude-ish type of reign. Not like because Rick Rude was on and off with the title, but I'm talking about just.
But Rick Rude was one of the names synonymous with the Intercontinental title back in the 80s.
And what I was thinking about before we move on, you guys remember when Seth Rollins was the Intercontinental champion? In every pay-per-view that he was the champion, they had probably the best match on the card.
Yes.
That's what I want to see from the Intercontinental title coming up. I don't mind Sami Zayn because I know Sami Zayn is a great wrestler.
Yes.
I'm just saying that in order to make that title mean something again, every pay-per-view has to be defended. You don't have a TV title, so maybe you defend it every other SmackDown. If you're Daniel Bryan, you said you want to defend it every SmackDown.
I'm never a fan of belts being defended during regular programming. I never liked that stuff because I felt like we need those for pay-per-view content. I feel like it kind of cheapens the legitimacy of a title. Like every week is being defended on regular TV. Maybe you needed to give you a main. If you have the Intercontinental Championship match as the main event of a SmackDown, maybe once a month, once every other month, then it means something to you, something that you want to kind of tune in to see, especially if it's a decent feud. I haven't seen a really good feud for the title.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Tay. I mean, as much as I love the old TV championship and things like that, there's not really a mid-card title built like that in the WWE. I'd love for there to be one, especially because of the deepness of the roster. You could see a lot of talent really get a lot of exposure with something like that. But I've always had this idea, and we all grew up in this time, right? We grew up in a time when the Intercontinental title meant a lot.
Yeah.
Right. It was the second most important championship in the WWE. And we would see that the Intercontinental Championship would usually be a step up to the world title.
A lot of times, no.
Well, sometimes it would be like
a lot of times, no.
It would be that kind of like that, but you would see people at that Intercontinental level Intercontinental Championship level who were notable, who could have easily have been placed in a main feud, who could have easily have been a champion. and who could, and then some of them it was used as a rocket ship platform to put somebody there, let them gain steam, and then move them up the card. And I'd like to see something like that happen, because I'd like to see the Intercontinental not so much be a transition championship, but to be a championship to say who's next.
Right, but the thing is, we say that, but it really wasn't true. Because in the 80s, the people who were the Intercontinental Champions stayed Intercontinental Champion, apart from the Ultimate Warrior, I feel,
right,
who had the chance to go from Intercontinental Champion to WWF Champion. And then in the 90s, you had a couple of people. You had like Shawn and Brett.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, the people who were in the main event scene stayed in the main event scene. The people who were in the middle kind of stayed in the middle. I always saw the transition a little bit more when it was like Rock and Austin during that time, Rocky, Austin, Triple H. Then I kind of seen it become more of a transitional bout.
Well, but I think that was also there was a lot of main event level talent back in like the 80s. And so you had main event guys.
It was all Hulk Hogan.
But no. Hogan was the star. But what
I'm
saying is
everything.
What I'm talking about
Macho.
is when you had guys who were main event level talent, but weren't going to break that main event ceiling. So they kind of kept them as like the gatekeepers in the Intercontinental title
but
area.
It wasn't a transitional belt.
Right. But you could, what I meant to say was, you could have taken anybody who was an Intercontinental champion, just about anybody who was an Intercontinental champion, and make a legitimate case that they could have easily have been in a good world title program, or for some of them, a world champion.
Not at all. Not in the 80s. It was all Hogan all the time. And if it wasn't Hogan, that's why they didn't keep the belt on Macho that long, because everyone thought that it was going to be the Macho Man's time. And that's why they had to rush Hogan to kind of come back into that scene, because the 80s, Hogan had wrestling on lock in the 80s.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Even in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. And then in the mid 90s in WCW.
Oh, man. Yeah, that saved wrestling.
Yeah, it did. It did. I agree with that all the time.
I'm like, just to try to transition, we think about Hogan, even in like when he transferred and became like a heel in NWO. Hogan, like I said, personally, I can care less for Hogan. In terms of wrestling,
he's money.
He's money, and he saved professional
twice.
wrestling.
Yep,
twice.
He's the Jordan.
He has
of
to
the
be.
WWE.
He has to. He's the Jordan
pro
of
wrestling, not just
pro
WWE.
wrestling in general.
Yeah, he's a Jordan.
And then I think what's great, what's so interesting about the Hogan story when people talk about it is, if all you ever know is WWF and WCW Hogan, and you don't know about the things that he did do in like Japan and stuff like that, like when you know about like the well-roundedness of Hogan as a professional wrestler, it like opens up the Hogan book. But Tay said it best, you said it best. The guy, undisputedly, I don't think there was any guy outside of now in this era, Austin and The Rock and stuff like that, who are more money. When you say Hogan versus boom, that's it. It's box office.
Yeah,
I agree. But as we talk about the Jordan of a professional wrestling, let's talk about just Jordan in general. So Isaiah Thomas said that Michael Jordan would be a total loser without Scottie Pippen. We've heard this before from Zeke, but it came up again. Tay, is this a little bit of hateration, or is this true?
I wouldn't say total loser, but I will say that Jordan would not have had the career with the championships that he had without Pippen. I believe that Jordan is an excellent player, don't get me wrong, but without Pippen and without the easy paths to the finals, he would not have been as decorated as he is now. Because you're not getting that championship without a Steve Kerr last minute three. You know, you're not getting it without Pippen kind of being that two-man or being the man for the night. And how I kind of agree with Isaiah Thomas, who is severely underrated because he has to play the villain to Jordan's hero. What I do feel is that look at what Pippen and company were able to do when Jordan retired for that year and a half. They were still like top one or two teams in the East, they still had a 54-23 type of record in the 93-94, only to be kind of bested by the Knicks, who were kind of on a hot streak that year because
that could have been
everything
their
was
year, man.
that was supposed to be their year. But I agree. Not a total loser, but a loser. Yeah.
Pete, your thoughts?
Y'all know how I feel about Jordan.
I know. That's why. That's why I really wanted to hear.
But
I
gave
no.
a very
I actually think that is the best and most leveled Jordan. Because Tay can get very up there. Like when we tell Matt that Kyrie's a bum, and then Matt just goes off the handle, right? Like. Tay can do that, but Tay does it in such this like great even keeled way, where it's just like, okay, I'm scared now, but you make a point, but I don't want you. Anyway, no.
Elegant. Like
here's the thing, though. It's Zeke's not wrong, but I'm not going to say that Zeke is saying something we haven't. We've heard this from Jordan himself. Jordan said in multiple interviews, he said it in The Last Dance, he said it at his Hall of Fame speech. He said straight out.
The Last Dance kind of made Scottie Pippen look like.
Oh no, The Last Dance made him look like trash. But Jordan Jordan said it. Jordan said it multiple times, and Jordan said in his Hall of Fame speech, there is no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. There isn't. We all know this. Scottie Pippen is one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history, along with Michael Jordan being on that list. Isaiah Thomas is on that list as well. But we can make the same case about Isaiah that he wants to make about MJ. Isaiah Thomas would not be Isaiah Thomas without Joe Dumars. He wouldn't.
But that's why we always stress the importance of it being a team game.
Right.
But Isaiah wasn't meant to be the next coming of Jesus.
No, he wasn't.
Jordan was.
But the legacy that they have, the legacy of Isaiah Thomas as a point guard and what he is as a player in the NBA history and fabric would not be what it was. The same way Stockton wouldn't have been the same without Malone, and Malone wouldn't have been the same without Stockton. Tay and I were talking about this in the group chat earlier this week, I believe. This idea of like it really was a two-person game.
Yeah,
right. For a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. Jordan would not be the same without Pippen, but do I think Jordan would have 6 titles without Pippen? No, maybe would have won 1, maybe 2. I don't think Horace Grant was the level of Pippen to take Pippen's place. Mm-hmm. But it's not hateration. But again, Zeke and MJ, both of y'all, stop talking about each other. Just stop it.
True.
Stop. True. Y'all how old now? Y'all gonna hold on to this for the rest of y'all lives?
Forever.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, the fact that when Jordan came out and said that the way that the Pistons acted after that playoff series was unprofessional, it kind of snowballed in the wrong direction for Isaiah Thomas from that type of reputation damage you can never escape from. So I'm going to beef with you forever.
Right, but you brought it up too. We've talked about this, and anybody who knows basketball history knows about this. The Celtics did the same thing to the Pistons.
Yeah, but the difference was Larry Bird, Larry Bird and company were white, the great white.
Right,
hope,
no, I get that.
But
the Celtics did it. The Celtics did it to the Pistons. There was this era of arrogance, and it always was in the NBA back
100%.
then. They were the unbeatable Celtics, and you beat us. Yeah, we may respect you, but we ain't gonna like you on the court, right?
Yeah.
Magic and Bird were the biggest rivals on the court that we saw in a long time. They're some of the best friends, right? Get over it, people. There would not be Isaiah without MJ. MJ's legacy was built by the legacy that Isaiah built, right? The Pistons were made better by having to face the Bulls. The Bulls were made better by having to face the Pistons. Everybody helps everybody. You could be mad, you could be whatever. You don't gotta like the guy, but come on. Let's just be real here.
I wasn't shaking their hands. No, I wasn't shaking their hands after that.
You are both Hall of Fame level players. Okay. If we had to go back into the late 80s, early 90s, and you asked me to pick a point guard to have on my team, a lot of people would be hard pressed to not pick Isaiah. If you asked me to pick a 2 guard to start my team with, you'd be hard pressed to not pick Jordan. Listen, stop it.
If anybody, and before we move on, if anybody does not pick Michael Jordan or Isaiah Thomas to start your team off in that era, you're gonna lose.
You could make the case for Magic. You could make the case for Magic.
You could make the case for John Stockton too.
Right.
But Isaiah Thomas.
Well, Isaiah and Magic are kind of a little before Stockton. Slightly before. Slightly before.
So, yeah, especially Magic.
Yeah. So Magic and Isaiah, MJ unquestionably at the 2. You're probably picking Bird at the 3. And you know what? You could probably get away with saying, yo, give me Isaiah at the 1 and Magic at the 5.
Yeah.
You could get away with that. So,
True that. So, still on that, we're talking about something came up on Skip and Shannon on Undisputed.
Shout out to Shannon Sharp. He is the best.
I don't know how
Shay.
I love him.
I feel like Skip has just gotten to the point where he just wants to aggravate people now.
Yes.
But Shannon Sharp, like,
shouts to him for holding it down when Skip basically tried to shit on his football knowledge, and I'm just like, oh, for real?
My boy who played football came out and straight up said, he's like, even if Shannon wasn't in that huddle, anybody in that situation with basic football knowledge knows what play should be called. And if a defensive coordinator isn't calling that play, defensive coordinator deserves to be fired.
For sure. But basically, have you guys played video games from time to time at some point in time, right? So, and you get to create a player and you be like, oh, this is what I want. I want him to be like, him or her to be like this or that and a third.
Yeah.
So Dame was asked, what would be kind of the perfect player?
Mm-hmm.
Dame said he would take Jordan's athleticism, KD's size and skill, and LeBron's durability. Of course, the reigning, defending, undisputed LeBron James hater, Skip Bayless, thinks that this is a shot at LeBron. Peter,
how?
What do you think?
I don't know how. I think it actually accentuates one of the greatest things that LeBron James has is his durability. He's what, 35 years old, probably had one of his best seasons ever. He still looks like he's at the top of his game. Body-wise, he has not broken down. He has not really had any major injuries in his career. And he has played at a top level of his career since he was 18 years old. You could maybe make the case that maybe the first 2 years of his career wasn't really that great. So, but still, 14 years at probably peak level. And I don't see it ending right now. I don't see it. Now, again, LeBron did not have to go through the beatdowns of being the only. He did it in Cleveland for a little while, but the beatdowns of being. But no, he didn't have to go through the beatdowns of being the only person on his team or the early NBA with the hand checks and all that stuff.
But the hand check was actually made defense a little bit easier. They got first of all, in the 90s, the 3-point line was much closer.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother thing.
Yes.
But his durability is great, and I don't see anything wrong with what Dame said. Unless you just have a bias towards like certain things.
But I definitely can get why, of all the things LeBron brings to the table, his durability, he's a better athlete than Jordan was, to me. Because what LeBron does on defense, Jordan didn't do on defense. Two different players, two different styles of play. Mm-hmm. If I had to build a perfect player, I would have Kobe's killer instinct over Jordan's athleticism. I would have Kobe's competitiveness with LeBron's athleticism with Kevin Durant's skill. That's to me the perfect player. Because there's a lot of people who were durable, who played throughout the years, didn't make them any good.
And I think you can change things around. Like you can take, say they said Kevin Durant's size and skill, because I get it. Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall and he can ball like a guard.
Yeah, true.
But you could say the same thing about Magic, right? You could say this. You take Magic's size and skill. Magic was damn near 7 feet tall and could ball like a guard and play 4 out of the 5 positions or all 5 positions on the court. KD could probably do the same thing, right? And I think it really goes to who you grew up with, who you idolized, who you liked, and there's a level of respect to certain players in the league. And I think it's tough because I think you could create any concoction of players and put them together and make the perfect.
But I like you said, I don't think it was a dig at LeBron. Though.
I don't.
I think it was kind of still paying homage to LeBron in a way. Somebody who's played in the league for damn near 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Where he's going into his 18th season.
Mm-hmm.
So Tay, you gave your you don't think it's a shot, but you did say Kobe's competitiveness.
Yeah, Kobe had an eye on him, that he had a killer instinct on him that no one else had. Rest in peace. You knew that once, that mentality that Kobe had, it was like no excuses.
Right.
This is that. That level of competitiveness and athleticism, that's like that Tom Brady level. That's like that, I'd never seen that in any player before Kobe, not even in Jordan. Jordan was a lot more petty than Kobe, I feel, as a player. I feel like Kobe just, he did it for the love of the game and just the love of winning and wanting to be the best at all times. Jordan was just like, nah, this is my league.
Yeah, I think The Last Dance kind of, to me, kind of a little bit cheapened Jordan's killer instinct for me, because it came to me as, oh, you needed to find reasons to motivate you. To me, Kobe showed up every single game. And listen, I was not the biggest fan of Kobe. I was a fan of Kobe Bryant as a player. I did not like some of the things they did. I didn't like that he was, the hero ball guy for a long time, until much later on when he decided to be a little bit more given and facilitating player. And I've always just hated one-on-one ISO ball. I just really have always hated that. Growing up watching Jordan do it, because that's kind of what Jordan did as well. But when you're growing up watching it, it's kind of like, oh my God, this guy's Superman, right? And then as you get older, it changes. But I think Tay is 100% right. That there's a difference in Kobe showed up every day just wanting to be the best player on the court regardless. Jordan needed to find a reason to motivate himself to be the best player, because I think here's the problem. Jordan, in my opinion, felt he was, and skill-wise, you can make the argument that he was or he wasn't, felt that he was already heads and tails above
everybody else.
Yeah. So he needed to find something to bring him down to earth in order to motivate him, or else Jordan would have been one of them lazy great players.
Yeah, and I could have seen that anyway, because even like from the Last Dance documentary, well, Nick Anderson, it was like, oh, it's not like 23, and then he had to go and show them. That's the pettiness. As a fellow Aquarian, I understand that. Because one thing about me, if I'm beefing with you, I'm beefing with you forever.
Right.
But until it's that serious. And
breaking news: don't let Tay beef with you.
It's because so many things I don't care about.
Right.
But when I do care about something, I have to care about it to the last possible moment. So that's the only way I can kind of see the Jordan mentality, because I myself have a lot of those qualities, but
that's funny.
Yeah.
So
and I thought us as Aries were bad.
No, because Aquarius, like everyone looks at us like the humanitarian side, like we're down, we want to protest, we want to riot, we're smart as hell, we're aloof, but when we hone in and hate something,
we
hate it with everything. Like when I work out every day, I'm remembering what makes me push is remembering the people I hate. I mean, running
and you took that personal.
The only way to get through.
I took that personal.
The only way to get through cardio.
I took that personal. So next time I see you, I gotta show you.
That is one of the greatest.
That I have biceps.
That meme and that meme and the meme where he's looking at the iPad and with Gary Payton's like,
there's so much. What? One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to do it. We have to have a watch along of certain parts of The Last Dance, because that was some of these parts were so funny. It's just like, really, bro? Like, they have a video on YouTube talk about every time Jordan took something personal. I'm just like, bro,
he made a career.
You made a career
about being,
about being petty,
bro. The sky is blue. I took that personal.
And that ass. Let me tell you something. That's how I got into entertainment, because I was in a meeting with someone, and they were starting an entertainment business, and they tried to look at me like I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. So I'm like, okay. 10 years later, I'm still here.
Right.
Still here. But then they were like, oh, well, you don't know anything about this. It's not your business. I'm like, oh, is it?
Woo!
So, yeah. So I get the Jordan mentality. Don't get me wrong. I just hate that everyone's like, he's just the best thing since Jesus.
And here's the thing. I think this is why there's such a disparity between Jordan the player and Jordan the owner, because there's not so many things as an owner that can make him feel the same way that he felt.
There's no
as
passion.
A player. There's nothing that he can latch onto. He can't go out there and be like, oh yeah. I'm gonna go sign everybody, because you can't. You got a cap. You got limits.
Can't do it.
Right.
And you don't feel personally. See, Aquarians, we don't like to be restrained. Okay, so I see why it didn't work for him.
I get you.
Because if trust me when I say this, if the NBA salary system and things like that were anything like baseball,
oh my God.
Jordan would have everybody on his team and just sitting back like, oh,
Everybody.
you thought you was Jordan will pull a DeAndre Jordan. Jordan would be like on the 11th hour. Oh, you thought you was gonna sign this guy?
Boom.
You thought you was gonna sign this guy? Contract. That's it. I give you whatever you want. Leah Jets for everybody.
So that's crazy. So I'm gonna read some stats out to you guys, right? 17 seasons in the WNBA.
Man, the man is stealing my minute from the last show.
17 seasons in the NBA.
I know where this is going.
4 WNBA championships. 4 NBA championships.
The second person made more money in just their playoff bonuses than that person made in salary for their whole season.
Basically.
Yeah.
2020 salary, $215,000. 2020 salary, $37.4 million. As you just stated, the bonus for winning the WNBA finals, $11,356. Bonus for winning the NBA finals, $370,000.
I brought this to the table last week.
You did bring this to the table, and it's definitely a topic.
Yeah.
We spoke about this. We touched on this prior episodes. We spoke about this on another podcast. Why is it such a disconnect when it comes to paying these WNBA players and the viewership of the WNBA in general? Tay, what is your thoughts on this?
I thought we were going to start with Peter because he brought us to the table last week. But
no, I started with Peter last time. That's why I said I was.
Okay, no problem. So I feel like it's a couple of things, right? I agree with Sue Bird saying that social justice or injustice has a piece to do with why people are not as interested in the WNBA as much as the NBA. People, when a lot of men or a lot of people, when they want to watch women in sports, they want to see them as a little more timid, a little more sexy, a little more, attractive. You know what I'm saying? And then when you see the WNBA players, they're almost as tall as the men. They're black, they're gay, so men like to tune out to that. And the thing is, at some point or another, most boys growing up either wanted to play basketball, wanted to play football, wanted to play a sport.
Yep.
For women, it's like a niche thing for us. There's only a handful of us that I knew. I was one of my only friends that I knew that played sports as a woman. And I feel like it comes with it's a huge disparity because the product is just as good, if not better. These women play their hearts out. But I feel like it is marketing. I feel like they haven't been able to kind of tie the entire league off of one or two superstars because you can't really call them a superstar if you refuse to pay them more than what a lot of the women in the WNBA get paid less than me a year. But I feel like it's a reflection of the gender wage disparities, sponsorships, corporate dollars that may come in. It's been hard to attract big name sponsors to kind of come in and give those $1 million, $15, $20 million endorsements. And it sucks.
I agree.
I think a lot of it is what Tay said. I mean, there's not as much. The television contracts are a big reason, right? The amount of television money that the NBA gets, which then gets funneled into player contracts and things like that, is completely disparate in the NBA and the WNBA. I 100% agree with Tay that when it comes to think about what they're. I'm not going to say that women don't watch basketball, but I think if you look at the numbers, the statistics for the NBA fans, you're going to find a lot of men, right? You're going to find a lot of men. And men say, oh, women playing basketball. You would think they want to see it. But I think there are a lot of men that still have that very masculine attitude of it's just like, if I'm going to see women playing sports, I want to see women playing sports and it be sexy.
Like the soccer.
Right.
Soccer.
Or even I know men who on the low will watch women's volleyball, Why? Because they wear the short shorts and they got this and they got that and all that other stuff, right? Even look at who men who do follow the WNBA, who they follow, right? Right now, one of the most talked about and followed women in WNBA is Tia Cooper. And everybody's, oh my gosh, she's so fun. She this, she that, she wife, yeah, right? A funny story, because when I was talking about this, bring it to the table, I looked this up. Elena Delle Donne, when she came into the WNBA, people were like, oh my gosh, she's gorgeous, she's great, she's this, she's that. When Elena Delle Donne publicly stated that she was gay, people stopped talking about Elena Delle Donne.
That's true.
Right? And I think there are men who want to watch the WNBA, but I think there is, and Sue Bird kind of talked about this, she mentioned this in a statement. I think there is an issue with men looking at the sport and saying, well, these women are not in their minds attainable to me because they are gay women. And that's not to say that there are not straight women in the WNBA, because there are. Right. But I think a lot of men look at the WNBA, and I think there is a sense of kind of a little of anti-LGBT mindset there, where it's just like, I'm not going to watch it because it's not women, it's gay women. Right. And then they put that on everybody. Oh, all the women WNBA are gay. No, they're not. Right. First of all. Right. But I think that's a major problem. And these women don't have to be sexy. They don't have to be attractive to you. They don't have to be any of that. They are great basketball players. They play the sport at a very high level. I've always said I'd love to see some exhibition contests where they mix up some of the WNBA and NBA guys.
That'll be great.
And really just let them play, right? Funny thing is, a lot of women players in college and in the WNBA practice against their male counterparts, practice with their male counterparts. There are women in college basketball who practice with the men on the college basketball teams in order to get better, because some of the men may be bigger. Some of the men may be stronger in certain areas. So they challenge themselves to go up against these male players. I know a lot of WNBA players who work out with and practice with NBA players, who go to NBA facilities and practice with them, and I always find it funny, because I was actually watching a clip of somebody in the WNBA, and they were asking them like what their favorite post move was. And they showed a clip of them playing in the post against men. And the funny thing was, even the men in the gym that they were practicing against, every single time they made a move or they got past a player, normal protocol when you're playing basketball, everyone's like, oh, like it's a big deal that they can do that.
Right.
Like, these women are great athletes, and we just need to respect them as great athletes. We need to pay them as great athletes. Now, I will say this, not because it's not possible. The WNBA does play on 10-foot rims just like the NBA. Okay. Not all of the women in the WNBA have the athletic ability to dunk on a 10-foot rim, but many of them can dunk. I know there's been some pushback from the WNBA players to do this, because it's the idea of the equality thing, right? Oh, if they play on a 10-foot rim, we want to play on a 10-foot. Listen, we know you can play on a 10-foot rim. But one of the ways you could add a little of excitement, the NBA did this when they kind of opened the idea of dunking and three-point shots, right? Add a little excitement. If the women were dunking on a regular, I guarantee you more people will be watching
it. But kids this generation don't care about dunking like we used to care about dunking in the 90s. Now these kids care about who could shoot from the half court. We didn't care about that.
Well, not in the NBA, but I think in the WNBA.
Not even.
All of a sudden.
Dunking had their time.
But if you are a young girl and all of a sudden you seeing a guard or a forward in the WNBA pull up on a posted dunk, and that's the thing. I think that's another thing. Think about how the NBA rose in popularity, especially in the United States. You had all the posters and all the dunks and all the players, right? And I think that needs to be something the WNBA needs to look into. How can they raise their popularity unilaterally, and think about like how can we get people to put the eyes on the product, maybe even sponsors. All of a sudden the game becomes more exciting, right? More fans start coming to the game. Sponsors are going to come to the table because ticket sales will be it.
Yeah, but it was doing well in the beginning when they had a lot of tie to the NBA.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? When you looked at Lisa Leslie and you looked at Kobe Bryant and Shaq, when you looked at Cheryl Swoops and looked at Hakeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets at the time, it felt more connected.
But the NBA never promoted it as hard as it did the NBA product.
I can disagree with you on that. Because during that time,
it was crazy.
Nothing but WNBA commercials. Once they started to kind of back away, when they see that
they couldn't stand on their own,
right? They couldn't stand on their own. So then now Big Brother, the past 2 years or so, have been kind of just pushing the WNBA, like, hey, we have another product. We have another set of athletes that you guys should take a look at.
And then also it comes on during the summertime,
right,
where sports are kind of at a hiatus for the most.
Only thing on really is baseball,
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not even the baseball season kind of suffers during that time because those are just like regular exhibition games. It's not like it's regular season games. It's not like the playoffs. You get what I'm saying? So during the summer, you're not really sitting at home watching sports like that,
right?
Besides WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this about the WNBA. The one thing that I think the WNBA in the position that it's in does afford them, or at least their women are more apt to do, and Tay brought this up, is movements in social justice. We've only recently seen some of the NBA players kind of come out, and I think because there's a lot of money tied to those contracts, a lot of political correctness tied to those teams and franchises and contracts, a lot of NBA players up until the last maybe couple of years were really silent on a lot of things and didn't really do a lot of activism. But the women in the WNBA, they're just like, yo, to us, this is just a regular job. I'm not paid at the level of an NBA player, and I'm not going to be muzzled by my contract. And I'm going to use my platform to push what I need to push out there. Mm-hmm. And we saw this in WNBA was at the forefront a lot this year of the protests, doing what they did. Actually, I think it was the Atlanta Dream, right? Their owner.
We had the story on the show.
Yeah, and you would have never seen, the only time you've seen an NBA team do that was with the Donald Sterling thing, and that's because it went above and beyond what needed to happen, right? But if what happened in Atlanta, the Atlanta Dream, had happened to an NBA team, you would have seen like the upper executives dealing with that, and the other players just like, yo, they my thing. You know, I'm just here to do this and do this.
I'm just here to dribble.
Right. And I agree with that 100%. I think the WNBA should continue to be applauded for fighting social justice, and they're doing it in front of everybody, and people are just not watching.
Right.
So, from the WNBA, because we have about 5-6 minutes left, the NFL. Real quick, the Miami Dolphins, right?
Yes.
And we definitely real quick on this. They will be starting Tua
Tagovailoa.
Yes. This week instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick has the seventh best QBR this year. In the last two games, he won by a combined total of 67-17. This does come as a surprise, as I mentioned, but we kind of knew it was going to come into it because the team is 500. Now I can understand if Miami was like 6-1 and then they'd be like, we're switching, but the team is 500. You could possibly make it playoffs. You possibly can't. Let's see what the young guy has. He's fully healed. So, real quick, Pete, what do you think about this? And what do you think the final record will be for Miami with this?
Tua was the future. We knew that coming in. I was surprised by the fact that they benched Fitzpatrick. I heard somebody on the radio earlier today saying that this was what they call a positive benching. And again, we're used to like these benches happening before a bye week and stuff like that. But I also wouldn't be throwing Tua into the game that he's going. His first game is going to be against the Rams and that front seven of Aaron Donald and them boys. Like that's not the first game you want to throw that boy into, especially having come off an injury history. Here's what I want to say about Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is a well-traveled veteran. We've seen him on so many teams. This year he threw over 300 yards twice. 3 of his 5 games, he had at least 2 touchdowns. He really only had 2 bad games. The game against Seattle, where he threw for 315 yards, but no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And the game against New England, the first game of the season, where he had no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But then he threw for 328 against Buffalo and 2 touchdowns, 160 and 2 touchdowns against Jacksonville. And then he threw 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he also had 2 interceptions, but 3 touchdowns against the Jets in their last game. I know Fitzpatrick's going through it. Tua's the future, but there's not really much on Tua to go on.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he does well. Miami has a chance to win this division right now.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. Buffalo's been sliding. Right now,
slacking.
It's between Buffalo and Miami.
Yeah.
And if this goes wrong, and Fitzpatrick, listen, if this was bad Fitzpatrick that you were replacing, I'd have been 100% for it. I understand it. But he hasn't been bad.
Past couple seasons.
Seasons, he's been real legit.
Right. So I feel like they should not have benched him at this point. I think you make the case for letting. I would have rolled with Fitzpatrick until we found out we weren't making the playoffs.
Or until the wheels started to fall off on him, as they sometimes do.
Right. So because he had this kind of FitzMagic a couple of seasons ago too, and I feel like once you have that momentum, you ride the momentum until the momentum stops. And I think that it was kind of abrupt. I mean, I knew that the future was coming. Like it felt as poorly planned as when they tried to do the Daniel Jones, Eli Manning transition, which is a lot more disrespectful. But and shout outs to Eli because none of this was your fault, by the way. Okay, thank you. But yeah, so I don't think it was Tua time yet. I think that they could have rolled with Fitzpatrick at least a couple more weeks, throwing him into the Rams. Then this kid is gonna get smashed.
Yeah, welcome to the NFL.
Yeah, right.
Like Mufasa.
And this kid's coming off a hip injury. Kid's coming off a hip injury, and you got him going
typical
up against
Dolphins though.
Coming out at the Rams front seven, like
typical Dolphins. I'm not surprised.
Like, how? Like that's not fair. But
you should have started him last week against the Jets.
That would have been an easier.
You should have
temperature
just kept
check.
him in the game for the rest of the time.
That would have been an easier temperature check.
Right. Like if you're gonna do it, if you were gonna bench him and get the blowback for it, start him against the Jets. At least you know the Jets have been a terrible team. You can get something out of Tua. And if he has a bad game, it's his first game. If he has a good game, you can run the whole thing. Well, all right, let's keep running with him.
I also think nobody wants to lose to the Jets, so they kept Ryan Fitzpatrick in. But
speaking about losing,
what is our record?
No, but speaking about losing, did we talk about the yards that Daniel Jones lost on that trip?
We will not. We will talk about
which trip was better, him or Titus O'Neil?
Titus, for sure.
But quarterbacks are not used to running like that,
right? And Pat Mahomes said that. What quarterback? Not even Michael Vick is running 80 yards. Nobody.
But you know what you're gonna say when you got the play in front of you. You gotta make the play. You gotta make that play.
Maybe Lamar. Maybe
you know they actually tracked his speed. His speed on that run was faster than any rush Lamar Jackson top speed ever.
Daniel Jones?
Yeah.
But then his hands are like damn margarine. Right. Like, come on, man. Like
he was clocked as being faster on that rush than Lamar Jackson has been on any
like
rush.
He needs to be in the episode of Glee somewhere. Right. Like, come on, bro. Get it.
So I don't have our records on us.
I'm winning though.
Yeah, she is. Tay is in the lead. Tay is in the lead. That Broncos Patriots game did none of us favors.
Nobody.
Yeah, it did nobody favors.
Nobody.
I think I only lost one game last week.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's Tay, and then me and Matt are tied, and then Dre, you're bringing up the rear.
So I propose that when I win, that I'm going to moderate an episode of the Yerrr Sports Show, and we get to talk about whatever I want to talk about that day.
That's fine.
It's going to be fine. It's going to be fun.
Oh, man.
Oh, hell.
Oh, man. Yeah, can't wait.
Vegas, we need some help. Somebody call Paulie the bookie. We need some help.
It's going to be fun.
We need some help.
Let me find out.
Somebody call the dude who did the
and we're going to do it in the studio.
Somebody call the dude who did the Tanya Harding thing, please.
I'm coming with a crowd, everything. It's going to be Tavius Tea Time.
Oh,
Tavius.
As long as I don't have to wear one of them Southern church hats.
That would be the name of the episode. Tavius.
As long as I don't have to wear a Southern church hat.
Of course not.
No, you're adding too much stuff to it. No.
It should be on StreamYard so I can mute you when I feel like it. Like, oh my God, I can't wait.
You mean like they muted people at the debate?
They didn't mute shit.
Get out of there.
But
we have a mute button. Are you going to use it?
No. But
I have to answer that.
Right.
So real quick, here's the 5 games of the week. The top 5. You ready to get these now?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Chiefs, Broncos.
Chiefs by a narrow margin.
Chiefs. Yeah, it was gonna be tough. I believe it's supposed to snow in Denver.
Yeah.
Chiefs. for me too. Niners, Pats.
Nah, Pats. As if the game actually happened. Pats. I'm going with Pats.
Yeah.
Is Garoppolo back?
He didn't have a great game last week.
Garoppolo?
He played trash last
Yeah, he had a
week.
really trash game.
I'm gonna go with the Patriots.
New England and Cam played trash last week as
Hey,
well.
It was his
I ain't gonna lie
first
to
week
you.
back from COVID.
He played trash, but he got me some points.
Yeah, I'm gonna take New England just because my faith in Jimmy Garoppolo is very quickly eroding.
Cool.
Oh man.
Real quick with these Packers, Texans.
Are you taking New England as well?
Yes. Anytime New England plays, I have to take them because they can.
That's
Packers,
fair.
Texans.
Ooh.
Packers. I'm taking the Packers to bounce back from last
What
week.
is
I'm
the
taking the
Texans
Packers as
rec-
well.
Yeah.
What's the Texans?
Texans are ass.
No,
I'm gonna take the Packers.
let me see here. Yeah, the Texans are out.
Seattle and the Cardinals.
Seattle.
Yeah, see, I take Seattle as well. By the way,
Cool.
they were in the running to possibly sign Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Bears, Rams. Bears.
Ooh, that's a tough one for me. Damn, that's a hard one. Bears. Maybe.
I hate you, Nick Foles. I hate you, Nick Foles.
Quickly.
I hate you,
Quickly,
Nick Foles.
quickly.
I hate the Bears.
He's choosing the Bears. He's
No,
choosing the Bears.
no.
You see how y'all biting off of me now because y'all know that I'm the winning person. So we gonna pick all the same people all the same time.
Oh yeah,
I'm
it's a
gonna
wrap.
take-
I'm following now.
I'm following.
I'm gonna
He's gonna take the Bears.
I don't want to take the Bears.
But you have
But
to.
you have to, and we're on a real time crunch. Well,
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah,
We on a
come
time
on.
crunch.
Yeah. All right. Give it. Da Bears.
Nah,
Cool.
Bears.
Da Bears.
there will be no bringing to the table this week because of lack of time. But shout out to
We will
everybody.
get Matt's picks remotely
Yes,
and
we
add
will.
them to this week's
We will.
tally.
We definitely will. Shout out to Matt. He's on load management this week. He'll be back next week. Shout out to you guys.
Surprised, by
Great
the way, that you completely did not mention the Tampa Bay Raiders game
because
happening this week,
because we have lack of time.
or the
So,
Jacksonville and Chargers game,
yeah, we lack.
I don't care about the Jacksonville and the Chargers,
And I don't
but
care
I
about
do
the-
care about
and Carolina, New Orleans as well.
I don't care about the Raiders game because half their offensive line is depleted. So
All right.
great episode, guys.
Thank you.
Shout outs to the Jobbers Network. They're having a viewing party tomorrow. Tune in. Me and Matt will be on a special episode of After the Year with special guests
When's this?
tomorrow. Yeah, this is what me and you was talking about. This is me and Matt. Don't worry about it. We got this. I got you.
Oh, that one.
Yes. So,
Oh boy.
again, shouts to you guys. Of course, shouts to Matt. Make sure you RSVP to go to the Jobbers.
I think this episode
viewing
went so
party.
smoothly because me and Matt didn't argue.
Yeah, Matt is in.
Hey,
Spirit.
Matt, Kyrie's still a bum.
Matt is in spirit punching the air, but for the professor, the voice of a generation, Pete Rosado, for the Queen Tay, it is your boy Big Baby signing off. Peace.